Welcome back to Be a Better Baddie. This is the podcast where women can embrace their true power, increase their confidence, and live their best lives. My name is Quenisha, and I am your host, coach, teacher, and fellow baddie. If you're ready to become the best version of yourself, welcome. I'm really excited because today we're going to spend a lot of time in the gray area. We always hear give yourself grace, be disciplined, a mix of the two. But if I'm being honest, the two themselves are contradicting, and they are in a gray area. And in this world that we live in, there's nothing wrong with a little gray. There's nothing wrong with a little gray, because I think the key to thriving in life is balance. So you always need black and white. Today we're going to be talking about how to find that balance between grace and discipline. Maybe you're in a place where you just gave yourself too much grace and things aren't necessarily working out the way you want them to. Or you can be in a place where you are just extremely disciplined to the point where you don't even know how to be flexible. So we're going to talk a little bit about both today, and then end with what I think is the perfect combination or the best way to approach these two constructs. So let's get started. I heard on another podcast that it was corny to start off with definitions, but I think it is very beneficial to start off with definitions because it grounds us, and it also ensures that we're using the same language and using the same lens approaching this conversation. So giving grace is defined as giving a little extra kindness or courtesy to yourself or someone else. So I think when I use this term giving grace, I'm thinking of a woman recently returning to work from maternity leave. And now she's navigating new obstacles of being a mother and trying to balance that with still working when priorities are different. The job's priorities hasn't necessarily changed, but that woman's priorities has changed. And now she has to drop her baby off somewhere, or either just leave her baby at home with someone else and prepare for that baby to stay, and breastfeeding, like everything, right? So let's say this mom is coming to work late. Give her grace. She deserves a little extra kindness as she transitions into this new phase of her life. Now, on the other side of that is discipline. So having discipline is defined as the ability to control yourself and make sure you work hard or behave in a particular way without needing anyone else to tell you what to do. So creating habits and routines that you will continuously fulfill. This made me think about this woman I follow on TikTok. I don't know her name, but she started running 1 mile every day, and she was posting that she was running 1 mile, and she was posting her OOTDs to go with it. Now she's just a beginning runner. Like, she wasn't training for anything in particular. Like, she literally said she wanted to develop more discipline. So she forced herself to do that. And at the time, she already made it past 100 days. So she's probably on to like day 150, and she's still doing it. And I mean, like, watching her journey, I was like, what? And there will be days when it was like, I don't know where she lives, but there was like a hurricane. And she was monitoring the weather to like see when it would rain in her area so that she can make sure she goes to get her run in. So I really feel like she really displayed discipline. She said, I am going to make myself do this regardless of what external conditions exist. It's raining. It was literally a hurricane coming through, and she still made the time to run and make these videos every day. So I give her kudos still. She makes me want to run. I can't run in Texas. It's a little too hot, but now it's cooling down. But yes, that is discipline. So I think both are extremely important and both are needed. So studies show us that people who exhibit discipline experience more success in life. But it's not because they have more willpower. It's because they're able to better allocate their energy. The article that I pulled this from was talking about a study that showed that people with high self-control don't necessarily resist their impulses more than other people, but instead they avoid temptation and problem situations altogether, right? So the people with self-control don't expend their limited willpower wrestling with impulses, temptations, and demands. So, for to simplify that a bit more, people with strong discipline and willpower don't put themselves in that situation in the first place. It's not to say that if they saw the candy sitting on the table in front of them, they're less likely to grab it than the person with less willpower. Instead, they would probably bring their yogurt to the meeting so that they didn't have to even grab the candy. They've already set themselves up so that they are in a situation where they don't have to wrestle with their willpower. I've listened to a lot of podcasts about willpower and discipline, and apparently we run out of willpower. Like, you can literally run out of your will to say no to something. That is really what makes the people with more discipline more successful. But then on the other side of things, I feel like you shouldn't feel like you have to be a perfect robot that needs to perform at 100% of the time. So for that reason, yes, grace is needed. You shouldn't beat yourself up because you came to the meeting where there was candy on the table and you had your yogurt. Yes, you were set up for success, right? You ate your yogurt, but then you still ended up grabbing the candy. That's okay. Like, give yourself grace because yes, you did set yourself up for success, but you still wanted candy. And I think this is when the black and white thing like comes into play, right? So you're in this gray area, but I don't think you're fully optimized when you are in the gray level 100% of the time. So to couple with that, when you turn these occasional like grace periods into rituals, then that is when we can see grace as a mistake. An occasional treat, an occasional broken promise, an occasional not showing up, I feel like is okay. But then when we're constantly giving grace for the same thing, whether it be to ourselves or other people, that is no longer giving grace. That is instead enabling. So I feel us now kind of as a society moving into a more empty and performative use of the term to escape blame or accountability, because God forbid you hold anybody accountable for their actions. God, you need to give them grace. You know, they're just people. I agree. And there's nothing wrong with accountability. So what exactly happens when you do give yourself too much grace, right? There are pitfalls to excessive grace. When you're perpetually giving yourself too much grace, you inevitably will place yourself in the comfort zone, which nothing is wrong with the comfort zone if your comfort zone is the result of your discipline, okay? And I'm going to dig further into that in a minute, but as a baddie, we don't want you to get into a place where you are hindering your own growth, right? Your comfort zone should be the result of hard work so that when you are in your comfort zone, it's still a comfortable place where you can dial it up, you can turn it down. There's this visual that I think perfectly sums this up. And essentially, I'll link it to the show notes as well so you can look at it, and it'll also be on my Instagram. But whenever you're in the comfort zone, there isn't an incentive for you to progress. So our nervous systems have optimal levels. If our nervous systems are too aroused, we tend to shut down and our performance decreases. And if there's not enough arousal, we get bored and we don't move. So overall, it's really healthy for us to have some level of anxiety for us to be at our optimal performance level. There should be a little stress in your life. So when you feel like, oh my God, I should have zero stress, that is false. As a human, you need stress to perform. That is what happens. So essentially, things get too hard, you shut down, you don't do it. If things are too easy, you don't do it. Either way, you don't do it. You need to be at an optimal level. So I think once you find that healthy medium, right, your good comfort zone where you feel safe and in control, then you can start growing and progressing more, right? So there's another graphic that I want to show you guys. I will also link it, but there's another one and it shows like the comfort zone, growing into the fear zone, and then the learning zone and the growth zone. So I think really we want to spend time going in and out of all these different zones if you're looking at it now. So starting off in your comfort zone where you feel safe and comfortable, and then stepping into the fear zone. So if you think about the podcast from last week about rebranding, I was in my comfort zone before, right? And then I kind of moved into this fear zone, right? I was affected by other people's opinions. I was finding excuses. I was lacking the reassurance I needed to give myself to actually move my podcast in the way I want it to and do the things that I want to do with this podcast. So then I move on into the learning zone where I'm learning how to deal with all the challenges or problems. I acquire the new skills to address the challenges that I thought there would be, and kind of extending my comfort zone. So now it's like I've moved past what I was afraid of seeing. I've kind of dipped my toe into it. I'm like, oh, this is easy. I can do this. I'm learning. And as I keep going, like I'm going to move further into my growth zone where I find my purpose and I'm actually living my dreams, realizing that everything that I want to do is A-okay and it will be done. Now, if you're looking at the graphic, I want to say that it's obviously not a linear process. There's this arrow pointing out saying like you will go straight from your comfort zone to your growth zone. That is not always true. We can obviously step out of our comfort zone, go into the fear zone, really be bogged down by the fear zone, jump back to comfort zone. So this could be a back and forth process for however long it can be. Now, what happens when you are too disciplined? Because there is such a thing of you being too disciplined. Obviously, you're going to miss out on the pleasures of life. The candy at the desk, I'm going to keep going back to that. That is a simple pleasure in life. You would miss out on eating candy, which is an addictive substance for a reason. You're more likely to burn out because you keep doing things 100% of the time, and that right there is going to really burn you out. You're going to neglect your self-care. There's no way you're taking time for yourself to take care of yourself if you are optimally performing all of the time. You're creating unnecessary anxiety in your life. So thinking back to that image from earlier, you can have too much anxiety and it's not good for your body. Some other bad things that can happen to you when you're too disciplined, you can give up any opportunities to be creative, which I think a lot of us kind of take for granted or don't really see the value in, which taking the time to be creative, and creative is anything. I think whenever people think of creativity, they're thinking of, I have markers and paper and I'm drawing. Like, no, cooking is creative if you like to cook. Exercising is your chance to be creative. Like, creativity can happen anywhere. But anyways, being too disciplined, it really rids you of the chance to exercise any creativity. We're not here forever. I said it last podcast. We are living on a giant floating rock. We're not here forever, so enjoy the time that you do have. So having too much discipline or having too much grace is neither the right thing to do. Like all things in life, we are going to need balance. So striking this balance between the two are important because discipline's valuable for you to achieve goals, set goals, personal growth, but it also should be tempered with self-compassion and self-care and the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. So thinking back to our mother returning from maternity leave, she could be A1, the best employee ever, but circumstances changed and it's time for her to receive some grace, give her some grace. So I want to end with what I think the perfect combination is, or the best way to go about this is. So I think being disciplined in the early stages of your life will really set you up for success. But you need something to create discipline. No one just wakes up and says, I'm going to be disciplined. And off the top of my head, like, exercise, I think, is the best way to become disciplined, or even like in academics or joining some sort of club. You want to be in some sort of activity that drives you and you want to improve in. That will set up some good guardrails for discipline. So now that you found this thing that you love, you want to do, you want to be perfect in it, you're going to try to be 100% of the time. But once you kind of hit that point where it's like, okay, this is my level, this is my lane, like this is my thing. That's when you can start to extend grace to yourself so that grace doesn't steer you off track. So if you're in a place where you feel like you've been giving yourself too much grace to the point that you aren't accomplishing anything that you want, I would recommend taking a step back from working on your goals. I would say that. Just really take a step back, say, okay, I keep saying I want to do this every month, every year, but I'm not doing it. Stop trying to do it. And I would say develop your discipline first. So get into some type of activity that requires you to show up, that requires you to perform, and requires you to get better. Start there, get better in it, optimize yourself, and then you can start extending grace. I also think, honestly, accountability buddies really help. I never really talk about accountability buddies, but because it's hard for me to find one. But I think that that really helps as well with holding yourself accountable and maintaining the discipline. So, if you want to talk more about this, I'd be super happy to slide into my DMs and let's talk about it, or email me, but I'll end it there. Stop giving yourself too much grace. Develop some discipline because you will thank yourself in the long run. We need to stop giving ourselves too much grace. You need to be disciplined. A little discipline can go a very long way because being able to put out that immediate satisfaction will really set you up for success. And it's so much satisfying to reward yourself for actually making progress and making the hard decision than it is to reward yourself for the easy thing. So, be discerning, baddies, and I will leave you with that one. And I hope you have a great, productive, self-loving day. Bye.